you very much. We appreciate it. Taking a live look right now from Washington, D.C. President Biden will address the nation in a State of the Union speech tonight. He's expected to outline the accomplishments during his first year in office and also address growing concerns about the pandemic, inflation, and Russia invading Ukraine.
And joining us now is Jason Whitehead, an associate professor of political science at Cal State Long Beach, and joining us to explain why this speech is critical right now. Professor Whitehead, thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
So can you tell us where we are in the country right now and what the president needs to accomplish tonight?
Well, this is a presidency that has, for the last year, been at the mercy of forces beyond its control, as many of us have with the pandemic and with rising inflation. So it's a chance for President Biden to really reset his agenda and to really convince the American people that he's the leader that can return the country to normalcy, which is sort of what he campaigned on.
All right, so we're also turning a corner in the pandemic, which is good, but now we're dealing with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. How do you expect foreign policy to take on a bigger role?
I think it's going to take center stage in the speech. It looks like President Biden, of course, was going to address it anyway with the buildup at the border before the invasion happened. But really, this crisis gives President Biden an opportunity to play to his strengths, right? So you have to think about the State of the Union as a kind of opportunity for a president, a once-in-a-year opportunity, where he's got the whole country, and at least those who listen to the speech, and he's got the other two branches of government right there in front of him. He takes center stage. And this really plays into his wheelhouse in terms of his own foreign policy experience. He was the Obama administration's point man on Ukraine. He knows the area well. He knows the crisis well. So if he can take the opportunity in this speech to lead, right, to be the kind of leader that the American people wanted when they elected him, by talking about the sanctions, by talking about the diplomacy, I think he can really, this can really play a big role in resetting his presidency, his poll numbers, and his credibility.
Professor Whitehead, the Biden administration has accomplished an infrastructure bill, but continues facing an uphill battle on key legislation. So how do you think the president should address it?
Well, it's a tricky issue because the rising inflation numbers we've just seen in the past week as parts of the speech have been leaking out. The Biden administration doesn't really want to talk about inflation by name. It's something that hits Americans at the pump. It's something that hits Americans, where they live and breathe at the grocery store and in other places. I think part of the way that he can reframe the inflation debate and the inflation problem is to talk about the way that his Build Back Better plan has been stalled in Congress, and to talk about very specific items in that domestic policy agenda that he thinks would lower costs for families, that he thinks would help families to be able to address the budget problems that they're having right now, things like healthcare, things having to do with energy costs and things of that nature, things that he can pull out of that agenda and say, if Congress gets busy with my agenda and passes my domestic policy agenda, it will actually address this inflation problem head on.
And Professor, a final question for you. Do you think he will address his push to diversify the Supreme Court? If confirmed, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson will be the first Black woman to sit on the High Court.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if that did not play a role because it's one of the, even though it hasn't happened yet, the confirmation hasn't happened yet, it is one of the great successes of the Biden administration to be able to pick someone who has great qualifications, who looks good on camera, right? Who is someone that is young and vibrant and promises not only to be a strong voice, a strong legal mind on the court for years to come, but as you say, fulfills his promise to appoint the first Black woman to the United States Supreme Court. So I think he'll mention it. I think it will be a chance for him to begin the process of convincing most of the United States Senate to go along with this confirmation. He doesn't want it to go 50-50 in the United States Senate and have to have Vice President Kamala Harris break the tie on that confirmation. I think he'd like to get some Republican votes, and this is a chance to start drumming up those votes.
Yeah, especially after being confirmed by the Senate 3 times in the past. Professor Jason Whitehead, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it, and the best of luck to you again, and we'll talk to you in our 6:30 half hour as well.
Thanks so much.
All right.